Act 1, Scene 1. The scene opens with a lone figure on stage, Khalid Bakhtir Razumov. He is well built, but with a peculiar lack of fineness to his features, as if his face had been modeled in wax and held close to a fire until all the sharpness of line was lost in the softening of the material. He speaks directly to the audience. Fatality enters your room one day while your landlady's away. You come in and find it clothed in flesh and bearing a man's name. Wearing a brown cloth coat and long boots, lounging against the stove, it asks you, Saifuddin's voice, "Is the outer door closed, brother?" And you don't know enough yet to take it by the throat and fling it downstairs. You simply just don't realize yet what this means. Instead, you welcome this crazy fate. You welcome it. You ask her to have a seat. And then, it's all over. You can't shake it off anymore. It will cling to you forever. And there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing will ever give you back the freedom of your life or the sanity of your thought. The lights go out, and the stage is black for a few seconds, followed by the explosion of a bomb. Afterwards, the stage is dimly lit, filled with smoke. A chorus of confused and excited voices ascends. A crowd can be seen amid the smoke. There's mass hysteria and chaos. A weak and colorless voice can be heard above the others, crying out, "Keep away, good people! Keep away! For the sake of Allah, I beg you! Please keep away!" People are groaning in pain. Cars are honking. The sound of an ambulance can be heard, and a horse is braying in pain. Suddenly, someone shouts out, "Allahu Akbar!" Amid the chaos and hysteria can be heard the sound of harsh, metallic, mad laughter. The lights and all sound fade out for a few seconds. Then the stage is dimly lit, revealing a lone shadow of a figure ascending stairs. We hear the sound of footsteps and the voice of Razumov talking to himself. Now I must write that essay. $20,000 for the first prize? Offered by Shell Oil Company. I can't believe the winner of last year's prize. Why, it was nothing more than a travel log. This year's topic is freedom and security. A post-9/11 topic of great concern in our times. How much freedom should be traded for how much security? Well, how much state-sponsored terror can be justified to guarantee security of the Middle Eastern oil supply to satisfy Western demands for consumption? Oh, that's another side of the question they probably wouldn't want to consider, would they? Razumov enters. The lights reveal the very simple, frugal surroundings of a small studio for university students. There is a table, stove, a chair, and a bed. At once, Razumov is struck by a figure approaching him. It is Saifuddin Hussein. He's a few years older than Razumov and much thinner, bearded, dressed in heavy cloth, wearing long boots, and with an embroidered Muslim prayer cap upon his head. After greeting Razumov, his voice grows noticeably forced, as if he had been practicing what to say at this very moment. Saifuddin. Bismillah ar-Rahman Rahim. Razumov. Saifuddin. Indeed, this is unexpected. Razumov and Saifuddin embrace, as is the custom, touching cheek to cheek 3 times. There is a brief silence. Razumov gives Saifuddin a puzzled look. He begins carefully. So, Saifuddin, how is your family? Saifuddin. They are abroad. My sister and mother. In London. Thanks to Allah, I persuaded them to travel there last year. How about you, Bakhtir? How are your studies going? Are they leading you to the true knowledge of Islam? Are they preparing you to fulfill the will of Allah and realize the way to the new caliphate? I realize that we think differently on some issues. You are more, well, how shall I say, philosophical. Nonetheless, there is something about you that produces courage. That's what I said to myself as I cut through the woods by the riverside. He has an integrity that does not compromise. He does not throw his soul to the winds. Then I remembered that I'd written down your address. And he pulls out a piece of paper and pauses. And then at Razumov. Let me ask you something. If you know that a man in a position of power has murdered a great many innocent Muslims, does not the Holy Quran require that this man be removed, even by violence if need be? Who will execute Islamic justice when Islam is not the law of the land? How else can the caliphate be established? Is it not our obligation to Allah to promote Islam in this country by removing those who continually oppose and oppress Islam? He pauses again. Razumov is motionless. He's been listening in puzzled astonishment. As he starts to say something, Saifuddin adds deliberately, "It was I who removed the minister this morning." Razumov is stunned and speechless, groping for his chair while holding down a cry of dismay. He seems to mutter something about his medal in a choked and gasping voice, but it's mostly incoherent. Saifuddin comes to life in passionate self-justification and a spirit of vengeance. "You have heard the sound of weeping and gnashing of teeth this man has raised in the land. That's enough to vanquish all philosophical hopes. How many thousands has Karamov imprisoned and demanded that they surrender their faith? This lackey of Karamov was uprooting the tender plant. He had to be stopped. He was convinced and determined to destroy Islam throughout the country. After a few more years, we would never be able to establish the Jamaat here. Look at all the lives he would have destroyed had I not stopped him. Look at all the souls that would have been lost. He had to be stopped. I had no choice, brother." "Yes, I killed it. It was the will of Allah. And so, here I am." Razumov, sunk in the chair, is stunned, yet he makes an effort to speak calmly. "But Saifuddin, we hardly know each other. I don't see why you..." Saifuddin. "Confidence." Razumov. "So, Here you are. Saifuddin. Yes, and nobody knows I'm here. No one will suspect you. Don't worry about that, brother. Anyway, you have no ties, and if I should get caught, well, I know how to keep quiet. I am only too happy to be a martyr for Allah. You can count on that, Khalid. Razumov. You thought that... Saifuddin. Yes, brother, men like me are necessary to make room for the self-contained thinking men like you in the future. In time, it may be necessary for me to sacrifice my life for jihad, and I'm ready for that. I will not hesitate to become a martyr for the holiest of causes. We must be prepared to die for Allah at any moment. Of course, if Allah permits, I want to escape. There's so much that needs to be done in this struggle against the infidels, and it is not easy to find men of total resolve and unflinching commitment back here. All I ask of you is to help me to vanish. Only go by and see this Zainidin. He's a taxi driver and a man of horses who lives outside of Tashkent in Churchy. Just ask any taxi driver. He's well known. Tell him this. He whom you know needs a taxi an hour after midnight at the entrance to Novoy Park. If no one gets in, the taxi is to go around the park and then come back to the same spot 10 minutes later. Do you have that? A taxi driver, a man of horses named Zainidin in Churchy, at the entrance of Novoy Park, an hour after midnight. Can you do that for me, brother? Razumov stares at Saifuddin for a moment. Then he gets up and moves across the room. With his back to him, his face shows that he is seething with hatred. He turns around to respond in a quiet restraint, though hardly audible. Yes, of course. I'll do it. Saifuddin goes over to Razumov, grabs him by the shoulders, and kisses him on the cheeks. Razumov shows no emotion or response. Saifuddin. I knew I could count on you. What a fellow. Where did you get your soul, brother? There aren't many like you. But don't be mistaken. This isn't murder. It's jihad. Holy jihad. Do you think that I am not prepared to die? I know that I will die soon. Very soon, perhaps. That doesn't matter. I've died already, long ago. And what of my soul? What do you think, Khalid? Will it perish too? No. It will go on warring in another Muslim body until the infidels are swept from Islamic lands, until the caliphate has been established and Allah has been avenged. That's what I look forward to. To die in holy jihad for the cause of the caliphate, brother. That is the highest honor one can achieve in this life. My promised reward in paradise will make the few pleasures of this life seem like misery, and the misery of this life will vanish completely. We cannot imagine what great treasure Allah has provided for us in paradise, brother. But it is only through jihad that we can achieve the promised glory. It is only when we struggle for the sake of a pure Islam on earth that we will be rewarded in paradise with pleasures beyond our wildest imagination. Likewise, only through jihad will the false culture of the infidels be eliminated from the lands of Islam. Modern civilization is false, but a new revelation has come from Allah. It is holy jihad. You say nothing. I know you're skeptical, but don't allow your philosophical skepticism to interfere with the mission. Or else, how do you think I could butcher all those people, innocent Muslims, scattering death? No, not me. I wouldn't hurt a fly. It's too much for Saifuddin. For the first time, he is seized by the horror of his crime. He sits and breaks down, weeping profusely. For a moment, he seems human. Razumov. Not so loud. Saifuddin. Brother, listen to me. Men like me leave no posterity. I do have a sister, though, living with my mother. I couldn't bear the thought that if I were captured, they'd be tortured in the prisons of Karamov. So I persuaded them to go abroad this year to London. All thanks be to Allah. My sister's a good girl. She has the most trusting eyes of any human being that ever walked this earth. Look at me, Khalid. My father was a small government official in our province. He worked a little bit of land in the Fergana Valley. He was a simple servant of God, a true Muslim in his own way. You know, Karamov's henchmen murdered my uncle in the massacre at Andijan. They say I resemble him. Haven't I told you, brother, this is jihad, holy jihad. But only Allah knows what weary work it is. Razumov. So, you believe that killing innocent Muslim bystanders is part of Allah's plan, Saifuddin? Saifuddin. Ah, brother, haven't you understand anything of what I said? It is unfortunate, yes, that some of our Muslim brothers and sisters will die in this struggle. However, you must remember that their sacrifice is not in vain. Allah is wise and just. They will be well compensated for their sacrifice. What does it matter? Just remember that it is sacrifice that makes the Muslim soul divine. Respect that in your intellectual restlessness, and don't let your philosophical arrogance spoil its message to the world. What do you think of me? Do you think I'm a being in revolt? No, you philosophers are the ones in everlasting revolt. I am simply one of the resigned, a man with a rope already around his neck. When the necessity of this work came to me, I understood that someone had to do it. Did I exalt in it? Did I take pride in my purpose? Did I weigh its worth and consider the consequences? No. I said, Allah's will be done. Saifuddin throws himself full length on the bed and places his hands over his eyes. There is silence. Finally, Razumov. Saif. Saifuddin. Yes? Razumov. Isn't it time to start? Saifuddin. Yes, brother. The time has come to fulfill the will of Allah. Razumov gets up to go. As he is leaving, may Allah be with you, thou silent soul. Lights fade and curtains close for the scene change.